Ladies and gentlemen, it's time we have a chat, and let me just shed some light on a very serious situation. Lights. I had to make that joke. I couldn't not. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another tutorial. Today, yes, we are talking about lights, because you can never have too many light designs in your world. And getting us started today is the I don't know why I mounted them on this wall instead of the other wall's wall-mounted lights. And you might have seen a lot of these. I use them quite a lot in my in any of my builds and content. So it's the end rods with the levers. You can extend it to use some chains, or the lightning rods. You could also hang some lanterns off of chains from levers and have them connect up to some iron bars like that. I'm just going to run through those real quick because they're not that important, but I figured I'd add them anyway because we got a lot to get through. So the next one that we have that's wall mounted, and these ones can actually still just be from a ceiling as well, but we will get to the ceiling lights later in the video. So this one is a very funky little design using an extended piston with a lever up at the top that also actually creates a very nice line there, and then using an amethyst. Don't mind the 3D texture, this looks just as good with the regular amethyst texture, and then some end rods that are floating around it. You will notice that a lot of my designs are holographic in nature. Surprise, surprise. And then this one I'm particularly proud of, making some custom maps just to show that you could create some holograms. Maybe something with a little less solidity would look even better. If someone wants to come up with a really nice design for that, I'd love to see it in the Discord. Putting some invisible item frames with some maps around a lantern like this, giving that holographic effect as well, is a very nice way. You could do some advertisements, maybe make one that's like KFC and McDonald's, and I don't know, whatever. Those were just the first ones that came to mind. I'm hungry, what can I say? Then the next ones that we have here, I've included them in the wall section because that's where you find doors, right? You find them in walls. So here we're using some end rods to use as door handles, because sometimes you want to incorporate lights into certain designs, so you don't want to have to be spamming lights everywhere, but you still want light to be in certain areas. And this is one of my favorite ways of doing it, is just making the door handles into end rods. Something special about them. I really just like the way that they look. You could obviously also do that with iron bars, but then you would need something like this on the other side of the door. I have no idea what this is meant to be, but it is just a really cool design. I like the way that it looks. It doesn't need the lever, but I do feel like the lever kind of rounds off the look. But you just got some lightning rods and a potted plant. This could be a number of different plants that actually fit into the pot. And then the end rod. I just really like the way that the bamboo and the end rod connect up. So that's the one that I'm using. Then moving on, we also have recessed lighting, as I'm going to call these, where you actually embed the lights into wall designs. And this is one that can definitely cover larger distances. This is also a technique that can be used in floors and also in ceilings, but it's best shown off in walls. So we have here, let's start with this one. We have just a jumbled up mess of stone slabs and bricks. Stone slabs and stairs with some shroom lights behind them, just to give you some kind of lighting effect, like cracked walls or whatnot. I don't know. It just looks cool. Then the prismarine one is especially one of my favorites because it's a block that is very underutilized, first of all, but also it has that oscillating color, right, where it goes from blue to green. And because you're putting it up against the green frog lights, if you look long enough, the frog lights kind of change color as well. It's a very cool optical illusion. Get out of my inventory. Very cool optical illusion, and I really like the combination of these. Play around with different designs and stuff like that, but just as an idea, you know, the oscillating colors with the green frog lights is very, very cool. Then moving on, using fences and fence gates, you can also create something like this. I have no idea what the actual premise behind this is, except for the fact that it's a cool wall design with some lights in it, much like most of these. because sometimes, you know, the architect might have just had some creative license to do whatever he wanted or she wanted. And the same goes for this one, although this one does feel a little bit more succinct, I would say, with the trap doors like this, and then the glow signs and the birch with the yellow frog lights. I forget the names of the frog lights, but the yellow frog lights with the birch is a very, very cool color combination, suited very nicely. And then finally, everyone's favorite block is the magenta glazed terracotta, and this is definitely one of the better uses for it, other than maybe like graffiti and dance floors and making a dance revolution machine. You can also use it for like a really funky window light wall thing design. So yeah, there's that. Moving on. Next up, we have something that is definitely going to benefit from the addition of hanging signs in the near future, and that is hanging lanterns. So as you can see here, I've created a few different design styles just to give you guys an idea. So the first one here would be, these walls are representing different buildings, so you would have the lanterns hanging in between buildings, and they can be offset a little and just feel like they've been thrown in there for some kind of festival or whatnot. It doesn't have to be in an actual installation. Then just an example of using it with some walls, making sure that you're actually connecting it up with some fence gates, because the actual fence posts don't connect, obviously, right? Also take note of like the complementary colors that we're using here, just to give it a little bit more character. But obviously you can do with whatever you want. For example, this one could have different colors to this one, blah, blah, blah. You could mix and match, but I'm keeping them together just for the showcase, right? Then we also have one that's been just plonked in between two pillars. This could also be a temporary setup for some kind of festival or whatever. That's usually where most of these sorts of things take place, is in carnival-y areas. And then this one finally is just where they just strung it up between different pipes. It doesn't have to be pillars, it doesn't have to be walls. You could just have it connected up to pipes. People will hang these sorts of things wherever they can. It's just one of those things. Next up, we're taking a look at street lamps and things like lampposts for pedestrian areas as well. So let's start this side. The first one here, very nice little design between the anvil and the walls with the hopper and the fence posts. Again, using frog lights. They are my new favorite modern lights. I actually tried making some designs with sea lanterns, and I tell you what, they just don't look as good as they used to. I mean, I'd still use them in certain places, and the fact that they're animated really does help. But the frog lights, they look so much cooler. I love them. And so here we have some more glow signs to accent the light itself. Very cool lamppost design. And then next we have a hanging light using some signs around the soul lantern here to give it kind of like a lampshade sort of situation. And then instead of using just fence posts, we've also added some fence gates and a pressure plate here just to add a lot more interest to the top of this lamppost, which I'm very happy with. Then next up, very simple one. This would be something that you have maybe in a market or something where you don't have a lot of space to hang something that's this cumbersome. So you would be using something a little bit more straightforward. Then finally, we have an actual street lamppost. We've seen this one used before. And while we're on the topic of this here set about the roads, if you haven't seen the video, you really should. But the long and short of it is, make sure that the lamppost is high enough so that the light source can actually reach to the other end of the road, right? Imaginary, because Minecraft lights don't go that far, but it is still the general theory behind how high lampposts are meant to be. Another thing to mention is that these lampposts are perfect for changing into actual traffic lights like these ones, and a very cool use, and it would keep the aesthetic going and the general style of your street lamps. Then getting back to these street lamps, we also have a slightly smaller version of it. This would be something for maybe like a one-way or a side road where it doesn't need to cover as much space, but also a very nice design. And I also like the hopper up at the top. It almost feels like it could turn, but it wouldn't need to, but it can. I don't know. Then we have this one, which is a very rickety looking one. This, I would say, is in the more informal settlement sort of areas, the slums and the places where there wasn't infrastructure and the people just took it upon themselves to make their own and cobbled it together with spare parts and things like that. So we have the two extended pistons here with a little lever chain thing for a bit of support at the back, and then a lever holding up that anvil, and then from there going into the beacon. A very cool design. Definitely not one that you would want to spam around a city. That's definitely not how city lamps work. And then the next one here would definitely be a more pedestrian walkway sort of situation, maybe a promenade. Yeah, it's this. This is it. Look at it, take it in. That is it. And then another straightforward one, same as that one over there. Just a little bit smaller with a slightly different design. I like the fact that these textures line up and then these ones line up, so it causes that like recessed, like stepped down sort of effect. Moving on to the next section, we have mini holograms. Now, you guys have all seen what I can do with the bigger ones, but mini ones, yay! These are again for maybe foyers or just, you know, again on a promenade or somewhere in a town square or in a park or whatever. So this one's just a holographic light projection. I started off with the shape of a light bulb and then I kind of tweaked it. I was like, nah, this looks better. Yeah, it's literally just there to be a light, maybe some kind of art installation if you want to get fancy with it. So yeah, there's that one, and then there's this one that would look a little bit more like actual holographic projections that could be mistaken for actual advertisements or the like. You could even swap out some of these or even just put some glowing signs on top of that as another layer and have some signage there for your adverts. Now, before we get into everyone's favorite, the indoor ceiling hanging lights, if you have found any of this useful, I would really appreciate a like. Get this out to more people. More people need light designs at all times. And a thank you. Let's carry on. So, moving on to ceiling lights, and the first one we have here is a very basic fluorescent light, right? I've just added a couple of observers up at the top to give it a little bit more interest up there, but yeah, it's just two levers and end rods, much like the ones we had on the wall and in the first section. Then our first little chandelier design here I think is very cool as well, using an anvil up at the top so that it looks like it's actually hanging off of the anvil, and then a wall with some bars and chains and fence posts and all of that sort of stuff. Very nice little design, very easy to replicate. And then the next one over here is again very similar to the hanging one we had over there, but just kind of looks it kind of looks like the chain is coming out of that hole, and you could lower and raise this light, which I genuinely like the idea of. It's very much like the lights that you would find at a kitchen pass, right, where the lights, the heating lamps that they can pull down to heat the food. It's that kind of idea, right? And then the next one over here is a holographic chandelier. Very simple, but yet so elegant. I've just offset all of the panes, so you would have them on the corners there, but in the middle, and then one at the bottom there, so it gives that kind of chandelier shape. But yeah, it's literally just one end rod. Moving on to the next one over here, we have another recessed light into the ceiling, kind of like the fluorescent light like that, but a little bit more interesting. It's kind of got like a light cover at the bottom, and it's held up by the chains and using some stairs to create that like half block situation going on here, which I very much like. Then just another holographic chandelier design, because why not? And this one, instead of the hopper, is coming out of the observer. I like the idea that red dot there is actually the projector. Get up! Then the next one over here is again another holographic chandelier. This one kind of just projecting its own lampshade cover, which I think is a very weird concept. But you know what? Again, it works. I like it. Next up, we have some hanging lights with some integrated pot plants. This shows you again the same thing I was talking about when we were talking about the doors over there, is that it could be a variety of different plants, and you could be hanging it at different sides, and this could add a little pop of color to what might be a slightly dull interior, or maybe it's not a dull interior, but you just want more color. These ones are particularly good, especially considering that these things actually can hang off of pot plants. Then the next one over here we have as a ceiling fan, and you got the light source up at the top there in the end rod, and then a trapdoor in the middle with the carpets. Now, you could do what I did here and use black magic, or as I like to call it, quantum gravitational... I don't know. Yeah, just black magic, Minecraft black magic. Or what you could do is obviously use the string trick, as most people usually do, but I just don't like the way that the string looks like that, right? It's just hanging up in the air. I don't like that. You could also use our little carpet trick with the button trick with the carpets. That's another one that you've probably seen on my channel a bunch of times. Then next we have just a straight up panel light. And here I have used some custom maps and just have filled it in with white and made a little bit of a gray gradient around the outside just to meld it in a little bit more. But I really just like the smooth cleanness of it, right? Especially with the way that it kind of fades into the deep slate. And then finally here we have a massive chandelier, just as a little bit of a statement piece, using some shulk up at the top, and then having the fences and the chains alternating so that they don't actually attach, the fence posts don't all attach to each other, and then just hanging a bunch of lights off of it. And ladies and gentlemen, that is gonna do it for today's video. So like, subscribe if you haven't already, and if you want to see more of what I can do with lights, especially the bigger holograms, and considering it's Christmas, I suggest you go and watch this video up in the right hand corner right now. Bye!